Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program, where we are currently heading back home from installing a couple of modules on the ISS, and of course we need to do that again. For now, let's just warp around to about here, and we're going to put ourselves in orbital retrograde once we get there, because we're going to have to decelerate a fair amount here. So that'll be absolutely fine. We're just going to position ourselves near-ish to the periapsis, but not quite in the periapsis. Actually, we are in atmosphere right now, but that's okay. No real problems here. Let's just get this guy turned right on around to about right here or so. Excellent. And let's begin deceleration. We're going to need to shave off a couple hundred meters per second here, I think. So that'll be absolutely fine. We're just going to bring our periapsis height down to about 10 kilometers. No need to do any sort of a maneuver or anything. We can just eyeball this. It's absolutely fine. So our apoapsis height is coming on down nicely. We've dropped about, I think, 200 meters per second so far in this burn, somewhere around there. Apoapsis and periapsis are going to be switching around very shortly. There we go. We are now putting this into the periapsis, and we're just going to take that down to 10 kilometers. Right about there. Let's take this over to horizontal velocity up, and while that's turning, I want to take a quick look at our trajectory here. Okay, so looks like we're going to be landing on the dark side, which is not necessarily ideal, and that makes it a lot harder to tell if we're going to be landing on land or sea, but I'm guessing that that's a land landing. I certainly do not know that for a fact, but that is the guess here. So at this point, I'm going to physics warp us forward. And we're just going to glide on down through the atmosphere and bleed off a bunch of speed. That is our current goal. Let's move into surface mode. There we go. And we can see that we are still technically accelerating, but that is not going to last too much longer. We are technically falling towards our periapsis, but it won't be very long, and the atmospheric drag will put an end to that particular acceleration. It actually looks like we might be overshooting this land and landing in some water up here. It's very hard to tell from here, so I guess we'll find out. It doesn't really matter. We can successfully land on both. Technically, it's a little easier to land in water, so... Historically speaking, the space shuttle was, of course, obviously intended to land on land, and specifically on runways. But that sounds like work. So we're going to physics warp on forward here, and my question is, when are we going to actually stop accelerating in surface mode here? Because we've dropped a lot of altitude. We're now technically still in an impact biome of water. So that all seems fine, but now we're starting to see atmospheric effects, so we should start to see this drag bringing us negative quite soon here. Slowing down the acceleration, and there's negative. Fantastic. That's, of course, exactly what we want to see, and it looks like our impact biome is going to be, I think, in water. This is showing shores, now water. I'm pretty sure it's water, basically all the way in front of us. Yeah, we're almost certainly going to have a water landing here. Looks good. We definitely don't mind a water landing. So at this point, we are continuing to slow down considerably. We need to slow down to like 400 meters per second or so. And we're currently cruising at about 2 kilometers per second. So we've definitely got some aero braking to do here. And of course, we're holding attitude at the horizon here, so we're going to get a little bit more glide distance, but that will help us bleed off speed as opposed to being at the prograde marker. So that seems very fine for right now. No problem there. Oh, we're still on 3x. Whoa, things really started wiggling around when I went to 4x. Okay, well, we're slowing down tremendously at this point. We're down to 900 meters per second, 800, 700, 600, 500, 400. Okay. At this point, I'm going to come out of physics warp, and we want to start to dive. So we're going to go down to surface velocity up. What this is going to do is this is going to transfer a lot of this horizontal speed into negative vertical speed. That's fine for now. I realize it's probably very hard for you to see the water down here, especially with the YouTube compression at night. This is why I usually come in the daytime, but we're doing okay for right now. Okay, I'm putting us on kill rot. We're just going to hold this attitude for now. We're 7 kilometers up still. We're going to start coming out of this dive around... Hang on, I just realized. I did not vent this out. That was going to be a problem here in a moment. Venting the fuel complete. There we go. We're going to come out of this dive fairly soon. We are slowing down as we dive. That is a good sign. 3 kilometers up right now. 2 kilometers... Well, 2.5. 2 kilometers up as of now. Okay, coming out of the dive. Ooh, hang on a moment. Horizontal velocity up, please. Thank you. And now we're gliding forward. We're still about 700 meters up. We've got a fair amount of horizontal speed right now, and we're exchanging the horizontal speed for vertical speed at this moment. Or rather, for lift. We're exchanging the horizontal speed for lift. I'm going to put us back into a diving attitude fairly soon, I think, because we're a little too high up. So let's dive this down a little bit here. 300 meters, 200, nosing back up. Okay, keeping the nose slightly elevated here. Drogues out, getting rid of horizontal speed. And splashdown. Little bit of a hard splashdown there, but we didn't lose any parts, so I like it. That'll definitely do. We're still moving at 2 meters per second, and the drogues haven't gone away yet. That's exciting. I guess we're doing a bunch of splashing around in the water. Sure. Eventually we'll stop. We can probably recover the vessel now. Yeah, that's absolutely fine. So another safe recovery. I like it. That'll be absolutely fine. And next up, of course, we're going to need to get our payment. And then after that, we can start designing our Tranquility is next, isn't it? Pretty sure Tranquility and the Cupola module is next. Let me double check that while we're loading in here. Yes, that is correct. So the Tranquility module and the Cupola module are indeed next. So opening this up here, we can see it looks something like this. Okay, this is the Cupola module. Actually, I don't think this is the Cupola. This is a module here. And then this is, of course, a docking port. And that ends up connecting into, eventually, the Bishop airlock. The Cupola is down in the nadir position. That's okay. We can definitely do something about that. Okay, so first things first, let's get our payment here. There we go. And next up, let's get this thing designed. So in terms of the actual size of it, it's definitely a 2.5 meter. So I'm just looking at this photo here. It's definitely a 2.5 meter, and this looks like it's about a 16 in terms of the, or actually closer to a 32 for the tank. Yeah, that'll be fine. I do want to see here. Let's see. There was a photo over here that looked decent. Yeah. So we can see here, here's the Cupola module. So that was actually the Cupola. It just had the window blockers on. Okay, noted. So this here is the Cupola module. It just has these, like, shades on. Okay, that's absolutely fine. So we're going to hop in here and let's open on up a shuttle. A fairly recent shuttle, ideally. And that's going to end up being... Let's see. I guess the ELC 1 and 2 is the last one that we did. So we can do this. We can open this guy on up, and of course, we're going to be detaching these ELCs. We do not need them. I'm going to also be detaching this Clampatron docking port junior and getting rid of that. And then we're going to take our grab arm here, and we are just going to attach it here, except it doesn't like to attach like this. So we're going to need to do something like that. I also want to bring this guy back out. We shouldn't need to have it in, like, clipped in for this particular mission. That'll be fine. And let's just rotate this guy around, attach that there. We can disarm that, and we can stow this away again. Okay. We do not need these docking ports. We can get rid of those safely. And then this bit here, I don't know how this is going to go. This will be interesting. So let's just put that there for now, and then we can angle this out to 90 degrees so that we can build this. And we can extend this. Okay. Are we going to... The cupola module is listed as a separate payload, so we might end up having that be a separate payload. We'll see how that goes. First things first. What exactly is the purpose of the Tranquility node? It contains environmental control systems, life support systems, a toilet, very important, exercise equipment, and an observation cupola. Okay, so this is very much like crew quarters type equipment. That is fine. With that in mind, we're probably, and this is our cupola module right here, we're probably going to end up going for, under utility, something like a pair of hitchhiker storage containers here. So something kind of like that. Now, these do have built-in airlocks, but they kind of shouldn't. Yeah, they kind of shouldn't. Now, looking at the actual module here, the cupola module goes in the nadir port. Wait, if it goes in the nadir port, then what's this? Hang on a moment. Something isn't right here. It goes in the nadir port, but according to this view, it's in line with what appears to probably be the Destiny module. I'm going to go with this. Maybe they rotated it after they put it on, because this photo was taken in, I believe, 2011, which if we go back over here, we can see that the Tranquility module lifted off in 2010. So maybe at some point it was rotated. But we're going to go with the ISS configuration as of December 2022. So that'll be fine for now. So that means that this is going to be the nadir port. We can see that there is a docking port on each side here in the fore and aft directions. There is not one, I believe, in the zenith direction. Although maybe there is, and it just isn't utilized. It does look like there is a docking port there, and then the Bishop airlock goes on this end. Is that launched separately? The NanoRacks Bishop airlock. Yes. Okay. So that is absolutely fine. We can definitely work with that. So we're going to need to attach this to the station. So first things first, we're going to be using a large module here. So hang on. Coupling. That's the right place. We're going to use one of these bad boys. We're just going to put that there, and that's how that's going to attach this to the station. This side we're going to need a little bit more work for, so that's okay. We're then going to grab some large Clampatron docking ports. I'm going to put one down here. We're going to call this the Zenith, or rather the nadir side. And then we are going to actually quad couple these. So I'm just going to put these in right like that. Okay. Then I'm going to flip this around. I'm still not sure if we're going to be... Oh, I don't want these quad coupled. I'm still not sure if we're going to be separately attaching the cupola module or not. But that's going to end up going something kind of like that. Okay. That's fine. If we can store it like this, we might just lift it like this. So now we need something out on this end. And what do we need out here? Well, we need a connector here, which ends up going like this. And then we need some adapters. So we need a kind of slanted adapter. So that'll be one of these guys, most likely. It's a little on the big side. Do we have another one? Hang on. Mark 3 to 2.5 meter and C7. I'd like a smaller slanted adapter. Unfortunately, we don't have one. We could do this. That feels way too big. Ooh, I did not mean to do that. Yeah, this feels way, way, way too big. So, to that end, we could maybe go into the structural area here and see if we've got anything here. I mean, we've got these adapters. And then I think what we're going to have to do here is adapt this up to an engine plate. So that's going to have to be something like this, and then an engine plate, which is going to be an EP25, and that will eventually have double attach points. Okay, where are the double attach points? Out over here. Gotcha. Rotating like so. And then that would go here. Actually, I kind of want this to be a smaller engine plate. So we would go for like an EP18 or an EP12. So this would be double, and we would have the shroud be disabled. And the attachment point here should be short. Okay, so it'll end up being something kind of like this. We'll need to attach this on here and then get this up to double attach notes. Okay, now we can turn it to be... That is not the direction. That's the direction. And we can attach it about there. So we can see that this adapter is a little bit off. That's okay. We can do something like that. And then we can have an adapter here, which is going to end up being structural. There we go. Like this size. Okay. And then that is basically the correct size. Okay. Now we kind of need something here other than just this. Because it needs to have at least some amount of, like, distance to it, right? We could have a relatively small structural tube, so like a T12 structural tube. Kind of like this. Short variant should be fine. It's a little too big. Okay, there isn't a structural tube smaller than this size, unfortunately. So we might end up having to go with like an insulated modular girder segment. I guess it kind of works. I would really prefer to have a slanted adapter here, but this'll have to do, I think. So this is going to become undocked here. This will eventually have something else attached to it, but this is pretty much the entirety of the module here. So we'll call this Tranquility. And then the question is, can we stow this with the cupola module? I'm guessing this is going to have some nasty clipping to it, but we'll find out. So first things first, let's get this unextended, and let's get this stowed away if we can. Yeah, that's about what I expected. Okay, so that's definitely not great. No doubt about that. So first things first, we're going to need to get this out of here. We're going to need to grab one of these docking ports. It'll have to be a large docking port. And we should definitely grab the... let's see here. Robotics. No, coupling. We should definitely grab the Advanced Grabbing Unit Junior and put that inside of the Mark III cockpit. There we go. That'll do for now. The cupola module is going to have to be stored separately. And that means, actually, that we're going to need a Docking Port Junior, which is going to go on top, and we will remove that when we install it. But we're going to put this guy here. And then the cupola module is going to need to be rerouted or just built in reverse, which will be probably easier at this point. So we'll just put this guy in like so, and like so. Okay, so now the question is, how exactly are we going to store this without it clipping together and creating a bunch of problems for us? That is an interesting question. No doubt about it. So this thing can store right in here, in theory, but that's likely going to create problems for a robotic arm. I think one thing that we're going to want to do is we're going to want to remove this extender right here. This is going to be kind of complicated for us to install, but that will buy us a lot of additional space. So then this can go here. And then as long as we're not going to clip with our tail, we should be fine to install this like that. Okay, so that's all well and good. Does this clip if we stow it like this? No, actually. That's reasonably fine. Now the problem is the cupola module. So the question is, how exactly are we going to stow that without clipping this all together and creating potentially significant problems with these docking ports and with these alligator hinges? That's going to be an interesting question for sure. Normally what I'd do is I would just go like this. And actually, it would be easier to pin this open. And then come down here, go like this, and then go like this. Would normally be how I'd do this. I suspect this is going to create problems for us, and the cupola module is still sticking out doing that. So we are going to need to actually clip in up here in order to grab this alligator hinge. And we're going to need to stow this a little bit deeper. So like maybe 105, an extra 15 degrees here. Sure. I think that is relatively clean. We're probably going to have some problems with this. Clipping together like this. We'll see. For the time being, all I'm going to do is strut these here, here, and then I'm going to strut these together like so. That's it. And we're going to hope that this lifts without major damage to the robotic parts. But if there is damage to the robotic parts, it should, emphasis on should, be fairly salvageable. So I'm not too concerned about that. We just might have to do some in-space construction. We should do a test deployment before we arrive at the ISS and just see how that ends up going. We've got a little bit of time here, so we can launch this thing up into orbit and be ready to do that testing and then head to the ISS next episode is going to be the idea here. So let's get this loaded on up. And hopefully, fingers crossed, this thing doesn't break too much in transit. It should be relatively simple to put back together. We've got spare docking ports. It's not a big deal. So at this point, we need to set our orbital altitude to about 200 kilometers, as we have been doing. Corrective steering is fine. Don't skip circularization. We're going to set the ISS as our target. We'll launch into plane of target. That'll be in about 40 minutes, and that'll be absolutely fine. So this is going to end up docking into the Unity module. Okay. Do we have anything there right now? I don't think so. It's going to be kind of squishy in terms of space, because we're going to have to go in past the Kerbal module. But that's fine. We can definitely get that maneuvering done. And we are off. Excellent. So we're just going to make our way up into orbit here. We should get there fairly soon. I'm just looking at the time of the video here. 24 minutes right now. I don't think we're going to get into orbit in 1 minute, but we can go a little over. It's not a big deal. So that is absolutely fine. We are, of course, following a very nice classically upside-down trajectory here. I love it. And we'll have to keep an eye on our burn timing for our SRBs. I'm wondering what's going on inside of here. I mean, it's very shaky, no doubt about that. Given the fact that we are currently pulling about 2 Gs, that's not super shocking. 2 Gs isn't a lot of Gs, but it's certainly more Gs than normal. So we've got about 25 seconds of fuel left in these SRBs. We'll have to detach those as usual, about 1 to 2 seconds before they burn out. I kind of like the 1 second, especially since we know it's fairly safe, even if we wait too long. You know, since we know it's fairly safe, even if we wait too long, we might want to try to eke out a little bit more, but I'm doing it now. Excellent. We got almost all of it, and we do need to change our gimbal limit down to 33. Got that right away there. First try. I like it. So our apoapsis is currently about 50 kilometers. And we're cruising along at about half of orbital velocity. There goes our SRBs. They, of course, are not making it to orbit. Apoapsis is currently 60 kilometers, and we've got a fair amount of horizontal speed that we need to get at this point. In fact, quite a lot of horizontal speed that we need to get. Luckily for us, we have way too much delta V. This is way more delta V than we need, and it's absolutely fine. And we love it. We're hitting an apoapsis height of 70 kilometers very shortly here, right about, actually 1 more kilometer to go, right about now. So our apoapsis is now up in space. I like it. And our horizontal speed is about 1,600 meters per second. So we need another, like, 600, somewhere in there. That'll be absolutely fine. Our apoapsis height, of course, as usual, will start to absolutely balloon quite soon. It is going up faster and faster and faster. And we're definitely starting to feel that now. 92, 93, 94, 95, 90, yeah, it's going faster and faster. I like it. So we're going to start fine-tuning that apoapsis very, very soon here. There we go, fine-tuning, and looks good. We're now coasting to the edge of the atmosphere. At which point, we are going to, of course, set up our maneuver. There we go. Maneuver is set up. And let's head on over. I'm going to physics warp this. MechJeb doesn't physics warp this, although I think it should. Or at least have an option for it. Okay. Now we're aligned to our maneuver, and let's warp over to that. About a 10-minute warp here. And we'll get ourselves into orbit. How are we doing on that inclination? 0.2? That's better than MechJeb usually does. I like it. That's very solid. Okay, let's just push ourselves up into proper orbit. And this is definitely close enough, MechJeb. You don't need to chase this node any further. Thank you very much, MechJeb. That is phenomenal. Now, I'm going to put us onto kill rot here. We have a lot of fuel left in this tank, but offset thrust is very awkward. So I'm not going to be too concerned about that one. And we should decouple this radial decoupler, and let's configure for orbital spaceflight real quick here before we go. So I'm just going to hop on over here. There we go. We'll grab onto that, and we are going to detach these struts. 1, 2. That is not the right strut. 3. You can go here as well. And finally 4. Excellent. Changing our orientation here. And restrutting. So 1. We'll grab this one. 2. We'll grab this one. About here. 3, and finally, we can grab either of these, but this one will do. Sure, that's fine. 4. Okay. So at this point, we are reconfigured for orbital flight, and we're going to bring Bill back in. Next episode, we're going to need to do a test deployment of these payloads, and we'll see how well they've survived. It'll be interesting to see what's happened to the robotics. I guess we can take a look in here, but we won't be able to see much because they're strutted together. So there's not a lot that we can see at this time, but it may or may not be in a good state. We'll find out. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, Shadow Wolf, Andy McGar, Upper Cumberland Gamers, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, Soccerman12UK, Kentogan, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time.